Hey, Dayna here. Today I am doing a day in the life of me, which may or may not interest you, but because we've asked you to do it, we would love to give you a little snippet into our lives. So here we go. I've been up for a few hours, and just like this little sailboat is up for many adventures and doesn't know where the wind will take it, we don't know what will happen today, so let's go find out. A day in the life of Dayna begins by grinding coffee beans by hand, usually at some point in the morning. This might seem a bit ridiculous to some of you and a bit over the top, but it was a practice that I decided to take up when I realized that most of my work life makes me live in my head through thinking and analyzing things, or in my heart while listening to the stories of many people. And I heard that if you work with your mind or your heart, you should rest with your body. So this way, I ensure that every day I remember that I am an embodied person with a body, not just a head or a heart. And then, so I do that. And then I make slow coffee, drink it, and do a few other things. So that's how my day begins. After having coffee, I tend to head into the church pre-COVID 2 to 4 times a week, depending on what is happening. Deb and Chad and I have coffee where we kind of discuss what was happening this past week, what needs to happen this week, where we're headed, and anything just generally that needs to be talked about. And then I head to my office where I used to, prior to COVID, meet with people. Sometimes kids after morning break would come and chat with me and tell me their life story, or provide me with art, which is now behind the door. I tend to read here, though to be fair, many of these books haven't been cracked in a while. I tend to read things about psychology or mental health things, just to make sure that the knowledge and practices that I have are up to date. I'll read something about theology. I tend to read a wide variety of people and authors, just to make sure that I am doing theology not just from my own perspective and from my own understanding and my own experiences, but that I am rooted and hearing voices from the rich tradition of Christianity. So whether that's something historical, something from a minority voice, somebody reformed, something that's new, something that's old, all of it's very helpful to make sure that we're doing church and theology and understanding God in a broader context. This morning, I'm working about 2 weeks ahead of schedule, which is fairly typical. Today I am working on Pentecost, kind of thinking through what the service should look like, working with the worship leader a little bit, thinking about what I want my sermon to communicate, and what the Holy Spirit is leading me to say. So doing that, and also thinking about a year ahead of schedule, trying to figure out what our next sermon series are going to look like, and just a way forward. So it's a typical morning in Dayna's life. Some of you might know this about me, but I find looking for beauty to be really important in my life. I really need it in order to remind me that I'm in a world that is larger than just me and my experiences, or my friends and their experiences, or my community and their experiences, reminding me that God is in the world. And so I call it the art of paying attention, or the practice of wonder. After a few more hours of working in the afternoon from home and a few meetings in the evening, I also then turn my attention to how I'm going to connect with some of my friends and loved ones who are further away. Today I'm writing letters, and so I will be doing that for a few of my people. At some point during the day, I tend to go for a walk, go for a run, exercise, do something active in order to both maintain and take care of my mental health, but also as a form of prayer and spending some time with God. I try to not think too deeply about life during this moment, and to just have fun and enjoy what's out there. And just to keep it real, I also take out my garbage. It is now an eating time of the day, and I've lit a candle, which I sometimes, in my best moments, and not in many moments, light in order to remind myself to stay present to the meal that I'm about to eat, to not like check my phone and respond to messages, and forget that maybe the food sort of tastes good sometimes. Yeah. This has been a fairly typical-ish day in the life of Dayna. There's many things that I didn't share with you, but yeah, every day is always the same and always very different. This has been an uneventful day, so that has been a gift, but sometimes I like eventful, so we'll see what tomorrow brings. One of the questions that we asked you to reflect on, should you wish, is how you see God in your job or in your life, how you've experienced God's presence, and also maybe like what are some challenges for you. So one of the ways that I saw God and experienced God's presence was through the beauty that I experienced in my own backyard. Just through the generous provision of others when I asked for help the other day and received that help today. That's something that I've been trying to grow, is to be vulnerable enough to ask for help. So that has been a beautiful surprise. The other way that I see God often in my job is when I hear the stories of people. Sometimes it's always beautiful, and sometimes it can also be hard. There's an author who describes life as beautiful and terrible and wishes everybody a beautiful and terrible day. Yeah, so it's always a privilege and a blessing to hear people's stories, and so I heard some of those today, so that was wonderful. Yeah. Some of the challenges for me are just that almost every day in this job, and maybe just in my life, I tend to have some pretty big questions that don't need answers, but I ask them every day anyways. So I have little mini crises that need to be calmed down. So I experienced some of those because of some of the events that have occurred today. So don't worry about me. It's just a fairly typical thing in Dayna's life. And yeah, and I think also just holding the tension of there's a lot of administrative tasks to get done, including like recording services and figuring out different documents and words to say. And so I felt the tension between that and connecting with people today, which is a fairly normal tension. So this is a day in the life of Dayna. Hope that you've enjoyed it, and we look forward to your submissions.